4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good evening. This is a meeting of the Bellbrook Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be construed as a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting, but no one has signed up to participate. But I would like to comment on being back to a virtual meeting instead of being in person. The executive order from the governor allows us to meet virtually through December 1st of this year, and this order may be extended. We prefer to meet in person and in public, but our ability to have a quorum at this meeting was in jeopardy because of work assignments or family health issues for at least 3 of us. It was my decision to conduct our meeting virtually then, rather than to risk having to cancel and reschedule the meeting. On the bright side, you should be able to hear each person better than when we have been at the middle school in the past. And even better, we expect to have microphones for each board member next month at the high school for our December board meeting. Mr. Liming, with that, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Mrs. France?
Here.
Mrs. Long is absent. Mr. Price?
Here.
And Mrs. Sloffman?
Here.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Long is traveling back from Louisiana. We wish her safe travel as the Hurricane Delta approaches Louisiana, where she has been working. With that, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America,
the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right. We're going to do a review of our agenda items this evening. I'm going to skip over the treasurer's report, except to note that item G, approval of the then and now certificate, is not going to be required. So that has been deleted from our agenda. We will have some reports to the board this evening. One from Betsy Chad on the Bellbrook Online Academy, from Dr. Kozad, the use of district facilities for the winter season, and another from Dr. Kozad, an update on our COVID-19 update and the dashboard. Under new business, we have certified licensed staff employee resignation leave of absence. And in here we have an unpaid childcare leave of absence for Jennifer Nickel in February to April, and those dates are approximate. She's expecting a baby and is going to be using up her sick leave prior to taking the unpaid leave of absence. So we certainly wish her the very best during her pregnancy and for a healthy child. Any questions or comments on that one?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
The next item has to do with approving substitute teachers for the rest of the school year. And I have a comment about that. I was looking through their resumes pretty closely, which we like to do on a regular basis, but these just kind of really struck me. We're anxious to get additional substitute teachers because we really haven't had a very deep pool, so to speak, of substitutes. But these two seem like really outstanding choices. Mr. Gilman has several years of substitute teaching experience from Kettering and Beaver Creek while he's working on his master's degree. And he also writes, I want to intern in the school counseling department under Deborah Sanderman for numerous reasons. Bellbrook-Sugarcreek School District is a fantastic school district with great school counseling program, and the student to counselor ratio is ideal. The school counseling department at the high school has a great team, and I hope to learn from them. And then Ms. Rollins writes, I'm passionate about teaching within Bellbrook because it is evident how caring the teachers are. They clearly want what is best for the students, It is evident that the schools make changes to benefit staff and students, and I've only heard wonderful things about the district. I really enjoyed my time at BCI as a student teacher, and I would love to be part of a student-centered community. So it sounds like Dr. Kozak has a couple great choices that we're going to be looking at this evening. We also have, any other comments on the substitute teachers? A couple of great choices, really. And then the next one is substitute school nurse, Ramona Donovan. She is new to us, but she has her national certification as a school nurse. I wasn't aware that there was such a thing, a national certification for school nursing. That's my daughter did that for a couple of years up in Wisconsin, and she said it was quite eye-opening as to the extent of the kinds of things that you see and have to do and so forth, and the opportunities really to impact students' lives. So, school nurses make a big impact. It's a great thing. Any other comments on that one? Okay. Number 4, recommend approval of the following athletic department volunteers, and that's for lacrosse and competitive cheering, swimming, diving, and wrestling. And all of these folks have been volunteers for us in the past, as I understand it. Support staff employment resignation leave of absence for a 1-year employment contract with Deborah Bailey as a special needs assistant. Now, is she with us now, Dr. Kozan?
Yep, she is.
Okay. Is she as a special needs now, or is she moving positions? I guess I'm not.
She moved from, excuse me, she moved from bus driver to special needs assistant. So she was driving a bus.
All right.
And so she was actually RIF'd earlier in the year, and so then she now moves into this position.
Okay, great opportunity to have her back.
Yep.
And then under C, we have a revision to school fees. And this one really is pretty limited. It's a reduction in fees for music program, symphony band, and one other band, if I'm remembering correctly.
Wind ensemble.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, it says the fee was, marching band was $300 and color guard was $300, and that's already a drop because of not doing some of their competition kinds of things. So this is a second drop for them. Is that right?
No, this is just that had already been dropped. So this is just the band, the rental fee, just because of the lack of playing and lack of competitions, just with everything going on. So they thought it was appropriate to drop that fee.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good news for band students in that regard. It's been a tough season for them otherwise.
Yep, definitely.
Letter D, career technology. We have an elimination of tech education for grade 7, and we have to approve that. But that's a result of the levy failure. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, so just because of the cutbacks at the middle school and throughout the district, just the way the schedule worked out, there just wasn't a way that we could offer a career class in 7th grade. In the past, it kind of been a combination of home ec and a careers class for 7th graders. So that no longer is there. They are still receiving like a STEM class in 6th grade and 8th grade, a STEM class, a flight class, and also called Becoming Independent, which talks a little bit about careers and budgeting and so forth and money. So there's still career classes going on at the middle school. It's just not in 7th grade. And the 7th and 8th grade. And if we aren't offering in 7th and 8th grade, we have to pass a resolution stating that waiver.
Okay.
Yep.
Other folks have any questions or comments on that one? Okay. Well, if we do, we're coming back to it for voting purposes. Letter E, 2020-21 bus routing. I haven't seen this in the past. Is this relatively new that we have to approve the bus routes, or Mary, am I
No,
forgetting?
this is just to, yeah, we have had to improve bus routes at some point, and so it's usually after they get settled down a little bit.
Okay,
So this is just a normal thing.
okay.
Yep.
I know Mrs. Wetzel sent us a sample of what one route looks like with all the stops and so forth. There was either 4 pages or 6 pages, something like that. It's just really incredibly extensive, detailed plan. And there are, what, 20 routes now, 21 routes, like something like that, Dr. Cozen?
21 routes now,
Okay,
down from 28 a couple years ago because of all of our budget reductions and reduction in bus routes. So we're down about 7 routes.
okay, okay. And then we have the payment in lieu of transportation. That's for, there are 90 students on the list. They go to 16 different private schools, and it's a scenario where it doesn't make sense, as I understand it, it doesn't make sense for us to have a bus to run those students because of the far-reaching areas that they go to. So we provide compensation for them to provide their own transportation, and that's regulated by statute, isn't it, as well? Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 2 or 3 students to a particular place. It's just not financially feasible for the school district to run a whole bus just to have 2 kids going in place.
Right.
For-
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we have a couple donations. We'll talk more about those when we get to those. And then items of information discussion. We have a packet of policy adjustments that have been provided to us. We'll have opportunity to read through those over the next month and review them for approval in December. And then we'll have some more announcements about levy discussion. And I'm sorry?
Mr. Carpenter, discussion in November, voting on in November, not December.
Oh, you're right. So sorry. Yes.
Okay.
I'm a month ahead already. Sorry.
Ahead already, yeah, to December. Nope.
Yeah.
Vote on in November. Yep.
Vote on in November. Thank you very much. And then under levy discussion, we'll review those items then. We are foregoing executive session this evening, but plan to have a special meeting with for executive session items sometime before the end of the month.
Yeah, and just on the hand carry, other additions, I don't know if you want me to review those on the hand carry.
Please do.
So amending the end of first quarter for BOA students only, since they started 3 weeks later, we're going to push their quarter back 2 weeks to October 23rd. In-person students are still, tomorrow is the end of their quarter, but the end of the second quarter will be the same for everybody. So we're kind of splitting the difference a little bit between first and second quarter for those BOA students.
Okay.
And then also, I was able to confirm today, we will have a board retreat for professional development reasons. We're gonna have OSBA in with us, and that's on November 14th on a Saturday from 9 to noon. So I did confirm that.
We will need to pass a board resolution to do that. That'll count as a special board meeting. You know, it'll be a regular board meeting payment.
Okay. We're in the agenda. Can we do that after a levy discussion?
Kevin, you just when we do that at the end, you just want we just want somebody to make a resolution or a motion
Yep.
to motion.
Yep. To have
Okay.
hold that, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it
So
doesn't
anyway.
matter to me when we do it, you know, it could be
All
after
right.
discussion before it, either one.
Okay.
All right. And that's the, okay, for board professional development. Okay. November 14th.
That's at the middle school on the 14th of November.
Okay. All right, I will make sure I do that at that point in time. Okay. Any questions or anything on the agenda overall? All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Liming, we'll go to the treasurer's report.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held September 10th?
So moved.
So moved.
Mrs. Francis second, Ms. Sloughman's motion. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of September?
So moved.
Mrs. France and Mrs. Sloughman second. Any?
Just wanted to note, since the report is included with the agenda and you've had time to review that, the first blue page of the back of the agenda there, the financial section, we can see that at the bottom of that page, 25% of the fiscal year has elapsed. That is because July, August, September, and October. July, August, September, I'll get it right. 3 months out of 12, 25%. So we look, the important things to me when I look at this, under revenue, our state foundation funding, and it's right on the button of 25% of what we expect it to be for the year. That's good. And under expenditures with 25% of the year elapsed, we're at 24% for retirement and benefits and 22% for salaries. The salaries will catch up because the month of October has 3 biweekly payrolls. So it will be more like 25% probably. It'll be more equivalent to the percentage of the year that's elapsed after this next month.
Okay.
Any question? There's a lot included here as usual. Any questions about anything that I've included?
No,
Kevin, can I ask a question about the state foundation? So that, again, that is with the, so that total, or that the budget is based on the $650,000 cut that we received from the state. Is that accurate? That's in there.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is the budget that I have done and the board has approved. Also, final appropriations is the other terminology used for that. So we've already taken into consideration the cuts, and we're right on target with that prediction. It's the best way to put that, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one question. On the second blue sheet, under general fund for expenditures, employee salaries and wages, says we've spent 53%.
Right. It's important
Is that
to
a
note.
calendar year?
Well, no, what we've got, the first one I reviewed is the way you're thinking. It's what percent of the budget for that line item have we spent. And then on this page you're talking about now, the 53% just means that out of all the money we've spent so far, 53% of it's been for salary and wages.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the first page. It goes over the row. It's what percentage have we spent according to the budget for that one line item. And on this page Mary's referring to, the percentage is how much was salary and wages of our entire budget, the whole column there, the 6.9 million expenditures. What percentage of our total expenditures to this point have come from wages? And it's kind of interesting to note there too that the first 2 rows on that report, salaries and wages and benefits, is 76%, and that's about what we've been saying over the years. 76 to 78% of our budget is salary and wages. So we're on track for that too.
Interesting. On that same page, then going up, the state foundation portion of our revenue is only 12%.
And the reason for that at this point is the oddity of real estate taxes, that we get a huge chunk of money twice a year. And so we've just got our first large amount of money for the real estate. So that skews all these percentages smaller. By the end of the year, that state foundation will be closer to 20. It'll be in the 20s, 20-some percent.
Okay.
We've been talking about it at our different levy meetings. 27% is about what the percentage is. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Liming
No.
on the pie charts?
Nope.
All right. All right. No other questions? Please call the roll.
Okay. Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes. Motion passes.
Could I get a motion to approve an amendment to the 2021 final appropriations to add 2 federal grants that we received, the broadband connectivity for $3,000 and the coronavirus relief fund, $135,916.76.
So moved.
Mrs. France,
Second.
Mrs. Sloughman. Now that, since these are grants, we have a fair amount of restrictions on how we spend those, as I understand it.
Right, especially the coronavirus relief fund grant has to be spent specifically on items related to the virus. Additional expenditures that we've incurred, such as any costs related to the remote learning or any kind of custodial supplies for cleaning specific to the virus, those kind of things. So that's not, from my treasurer eyes, a grant like that does not help us balance the budget, but we're thankful to get it to pay for the additional expenditures we've had due to the virus.
Okay. So it's kind of like
You're right.
Yeah, and it's in a over $30 million budget. That's a really small amount that we're getting, and that's based on poverty level within the school district. And so since we have a lower poverty level compared to other school districts, we get a smaller amount, where other school districts that have a higher poverty level get much more money, just like based on state funding. It's the same kind of thought process with the amount of money that we get from the state. It's based on the poverty level within a district and also the wealth of the community of the school district properties, not the school district, but the properties within the school district in the whole community. So, inversely, what I was talking about the other time, or a few minutes ago, of the state cuts. So inversely, we got a small amount of money from the federal government because it's based on poverty level and wealth in the school district, and we got a bigger cut from the state for the same reason, but they're inverse there. Where other school districts are the other way. They were cut a smaller amount, and then they got a lot more money from the feds. So, that's another piece that our school district, compared to other school districts, loses out on because of the way schools are funded in Ohio.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
and Mrs. France.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Could I get a motion to approve the treasurer, Kevin Liming, to be named the Board of Education Public Records designee so that I can attend public records training sessions as required by the auditors?
Yes. So moved.
Mrs. France,
Yes. Second.
Mrs. Sloughman.
Okay, just wanted to note that it's a requirement that either a board member or one of their designees attend public records training one time every 2 years.
I'm voting for you.
Okay. I was going to try to talk my way out of it. No.
No. Can't
Is
talk
that-
your way out.
Is that one available though for us at the Capitol Conference?
Yeah.
Usually it's always one that they have up there. So,
Okay.
you can attend it anytime you want to, but we at least have to do it once every 2 years.
Okay.
And
I think
if we're going to change someone else besides me to be the one that does it for the 2-year requirement, then we have to pass a resolution to designate them as we're doing now for me here.
Sure. Well, I might take the training, but I don't have to have that status. So
Right.
that
would be great.
and for clarification for our Ohio ethics, this doesn't give you any additional compensation.
No, it does not. No.
Very good. All right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right. Please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Absolutely.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, could I get a motion to establish a new student activity account at Bellbrook High School called the Hope Squad with teacher Paige Lewis as a volunteer advisor, no cost to the district. And there's a sheet included with the agenda explaining the activity and what they plan to do with that activity.
All right. Is there a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Mrs. Sloughman, I heard first, and then Mrs. France. I'll go ahead and read what some of the note from Paige Lewis. It says, the Hope Squad is a fundraising volunteer organization that aims at helping our very local community. There are monthly volunteer opportunities and fundraisers. The first coming up will be a suicide awareness and prevention 5K, where runners are sponsored by friends, family, and neighbors, and then they donate those funds to us, where we will deliver them to the Greene County Behavioral Health Services. We won't purchase anything with our account, but use it to collect donations through our virtual events and then donate them to local organizations. All events have been adjusted to be virtual. Sorry, maybe they'll go viral too. So there is no pressure to complete in-person events. The Hope Squad started as a few of my sophomores last year felt their peers need positivity in the wake of the pandemic. They created an Instagram where they posted positive quotes, stress management tips, and healthy school habits. From there, they want to spread that to the community as a whole. Sounds great to me.
I like it. It's so great to take that on.
Yeah. And being student-centered, student-focused, that's great citizenship. That's great citizenship.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Lemming, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
and Mrs. Sloughman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Could I get a motion to approve the advances listed there in the with the agenda? $100,000 to the lunchroom fund, $20,000 to Title I federal grant, and $20,000 to the Title VI-B IDEA special education federal grant. These are loans from the general fund until the funding arrives, and I had to take this action in September. And then the money is coming in October here.
Okay.
So it's just like a loan that's repaid to the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Sloughman and Mrs. France on a second. So that's something that transfers back to the general fund then in October.
Yeah. Yes, it's a cash flow thing. The lunchroom deficit is due to the fact that there's a large federal funding reimbursement check that hasn't arrived yet. We're expecting this week, actually, or next week.
Okay.
And the other two are just the timing of these federal grants. You have to spend the money first, report it, and then they reimburse you. Instead of the way it used to be where they would give you the money up front and then you could spend it. Some of these grants are doing it this way now.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Comments? Okay. All right, please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes. Motion passes.
And then we don't need to do G, so that's all I have.
Okay, very good. All right, correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence to report? I know we got copied on some communication to Dr. Kozad regarding the online academy, but that was addressed by him and also by Mrs. Chad. And
Yeah.
we're going to hear a little bit more from Mrs. Chad too on the online academy. I didn't receive this as a direct communication, but it was a public post on Facebook as a comment about us having a virtual meeting this evening due to our members being out of town. From somebody named Linda who lives in Bellbrook. Her comment is their first commitment, first in all capital letters, their first commitment should be to the taxpayers. And I think what that points out is that there's a misunderstanding perhaps in our community, at least with some of the folks, on our status of school as school board members. I mean, 4 of us are full-time employees outside of the school, and 1 is retired. We represent not only education, but business, social work, our military, and healthcare. Our livelihoods don't come from being on the school board. People refer to the central office as the board office sometimes, but we do not have offices here in the building. Board members are paid only for meetings and no compensation for any other activity. So preparing for meetings, responding to citizens, trying to learn and understand the intricacies of school operations, school finance, and school law are all on our own time and sometimes at our own expense. Many of us give up vacation days for schoolwork, and this is community service. I also want to clarify that we don't serve just the taxpayers. We serve our citizens and the entire population of our community, which includes students, parents, homeowners, business owners, renters, employees, and yes, taxpayers. But we also serve our own families and full-time jobs. And when we need to, we make accommodations like this to meet virtually so that we can continue to serve our school district as well. So that was my response.
I agree.
Ditto.
Thank you. Anybody else for correspondence? All right, we move on now to reports to the board. The first one from Mrs. Chad for the Bellbrook Online Academy. Has she been able to dial in yet? I use the word dial like that we actually have a dial.
Yeah. She should be chiming in just a second. And while she's doing that, I'll just talk briefly about the Bellbrook Online Academy. So there she is.
There she is.
Hi, Mrs. Chad. So just a brief introduction, and Ms. Chad might go through some of this also, but just, Mrs. Chad is our full-time Director of Curriculum and Gifted Services. The Bellbrook Online Academy is the name that we gave our online option that we have provided to our students through this, I would say, once in 100-year situation here, and trying to, build from the ground up a whole online option for our students. So Mrs. Chad has done a fantastic job in a very challenging situation. And it really, that is, in the meantime, become her full-time job of pretty much running the Bellbrook Online Academy. She's probably joining her, taking about 90% of her time, 95% of her time doing that. So she's just had presented with a very difficult and challenging situation, and she has rose to the occasion. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Chad, and at the end here, I will add some information also. So Mrs. Chad?
Thank you. I want to make sure that you can see my presentation. It should be on the screen that says Bellbrook Online Academy.
We can.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about just, as Dr. Kozad said, all of the challenges and also the success that many of our teachers and students and families are enjoying given this very challenging situation.
Mhm.
So just an overview, our enrollment numbers. We have 626 students in the Bellbrook Online Academy, and this is how the enrollment breaks down by grade band. You can see on the upper left, grades 9 through 12, so our high school students comprise about 25% of that total. Middle school students have the bigger piece of the pie there at 31%. And then our Bell Creek students, almost 25%. And K2 students, 120 students at about 19%. So pretty even spread there as far as the number of students that their families chose online.
Mhm.
So about our staff, as you know from summer discussions, it was really hard to predict how we could staff online needs until we had those numbers that you just saw. So because of that even distribution, it made it so much easier to pull our own Bellbrook teachers, as the board had expressed a strong desire to do, as we did as well, if the numbers warranted, and certainly families wanted that availability of our own staff who are widely respected. So for the K-5 group, we have 11 full-time teachers who are Bellbrook Online Academy facilitators only. So they do not have face-to-face students. For grades 6 through 8, 4 full-time, and that's quite a job. They have grades 6, 7, 8 within their designated content area. So math, science, social studies, and language arts. So teaching multiple grade levels, as you can imagine, is a challenge. It's a lot of students. You saw that piece of the pie, a lot of middle school students. We have 1 half-time teacher, so he has responsibilities in the building, but he also facilitates PE and health online for our BOA students. And then our intervention specialists carry a caseload, so to speak, with full-time face-to-face students, as well as providing services to the online students. And the intervention specialists, we do have 2 of the 11 at the K-5 grade levels. 2 of the 11 are full-time intervention specialists dedicated to Bellbrook Online Academy. Then for high school, 9 through 12, a bit different because of the nature of high school and so many different subjects and departments. It's really impossible to pull full-time teachers for each and every department available. So we have 2 full-time facilitators. One manages the grades 9 and 11, and the other manages grades 10 and 12. And they manage the program, so to speak, for that entire group. And I will talk more about what that looks like day to day here in a little bit on a future slide. But we also have 14 content area teachers. So 14 different teachers who teach face-to-face at the high school have an assignment during the day to provide tutoring, online virtual sessions with students by appointment, whether the families are requesting that support of the teachers or the full-time facilitators are coordinating that based on need, or the teacher is reaching out. And they've been great. And we have intervention specialists handling their full-time face-to-face job and meeting virtually with parents and students online. So we launched this September 8th. As you know, we started school in BOA later than face-to-face, simply due to setup and staffing, trying to work that out after teachers returned in August. So pretty quick turnaround, even though that was 3 weeks later. We wish it could have started at the very beginning, but due to the nature of teacher calendars, it was really impossible to get everything ready in the summer. So the launch, albeit rocky, and we will fully acknowledge that, as many things we're experiencing now during this global pandemic, our vendors and everyone associated with technology were experiencing the same kinds of demands. 200,000 students were enrolled in August only with Edmentum specifically. They typically enroll about 12,000 students. And that is very typical from the colleagues I talk to, regardless of which platforms they use. Everyone seems to be experiencing this same kind of demand across the nation. So that certainly impacted our training timeline, which was not optimal. It was far too close to the first day of school. The learning management system, that online system where all the curriculum lives, all the reporting, and behind the scenes rostering of students and staff, the parent login system, etc., was changed right when we launched, literally a few days prior. So the platform for parent and teacher access moved from a company or a brand name called Maestro to Genius, because Maestro could not handle the volume nationally, not a Bellbrook volume. So a little bit about the curriculum that lives in the Edmentum Calvert site, in particular for K-5. Calvert is a company that Edmentum acquired. Calvert was a leader in homeschooling, and these are the vendors that Calvert/Edmentum contract with. Math in Focus is a popular program that I have some familiarity with from colleagues in curriculum. And in education, we recognize these names: traditional vendors, publishers, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Pearson, Brain Pop. Many of our teachers in K-5 especially have Brain Pop subscriptions. We have those in the building. So many of these things were familiar to us from name brand perspective. So in the Edmentum warehouse, these are the vendors that Edmentum contracts with. So feedback. As I acknowledged, we had a very rocky start. It was extremely stressful. We heard a lot of parent feedback, which we appreciate. It helped us get better. And here are the themes, what we heard from parents and many teachers as well. Students needed more teacher time, especially younger learners. When you think about a kindergartner, for example, coming into a school where we have Chromebooks, not having that face-to-face direct instruction about technology, and I would say that extends beyond kindergarten. Even with some experience, technology is very time-consuming for a teacher to teach how to navigate. So we needed more of that for those at-home learners. The platform navigation, as I mentioned, Edmentum contracts with several vendors. Therefore, the platform would look different. It does look different depending on which content area you are currently in. That leads to confusion. It's like if I create this slideshow and use different colors, fonts, completely different format on every slide, it's very distracting and can be frustrating. So imagine that for students. The volume of work was another thing that we heard about. It was a lot, especially right out of the gate. So trying to manage and figure out what is the just right amount for students to move forward with learning progress and not get behind, so to speak. So we worked through lots of options with that you'll hear about. The pacing, which coincides with that volume of work, due dates, seem to be coming very rapidly, especially when you're new to online learning, as we all were. Many of us have taken classes, but not many of us have taught this way. And there also was a need for printed worksheets. Our teachers did amazing jobs creating editable electronic worksheets. And with that, there is a learning curve. So we have a lot of that going on. However, there is a demand for printed worksheets, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So how did we respond to the feedback? We meet all the time, myself, teachers, administrators, counselors, and representatives from the company. We internally said, how can we create more time, more face time, so to speak, between the teacher and the student? How can we look at our schedules differently? We know that best practice in remote learning does not mean the child walks through their day just like they would in a brick and mortar building. So looking at appropriate computer time, getting the teacher in front of them and making that meaningful and helpful was a big priority. The teachers increased the number of Google Meets that they offer. And the Google Meet, like tonight, you're involved in, that's the online meeting. More targeted small groups. So instead of having a class of, in some cases, 35 students, they broke those down into groups, which takes up time in the schedule, but makes it much more beneficial for students and families at home. Platform navigation, how did we respond to that? We take what we have and we packaged it differently whenever possible for our students and families. These are just some examples of what teachers have done to make that navigation much easier. Playlists, that's just a template that we are learning a lot about in the district. It's a way to organize your assignments for your students, like a one-stop shop, instead of going into each curriculum area online and trying to figure out what they're assigning. Journals. We have teachers creating interactive journals. So they're much like a roadmap. It tells you exactly what to do when, and then provides an area on that journal for students to interact and teachers to see their work. And those live in Google Classroom. Videos. We have lots of screencasts being created by teachers where they sit at the computer, turn on the screencast software, speak to the student, display their screen, talk about how to navigate, talk about what their expectations are for the day, teach lessons online using different tools. Many of them will use a whiteboard behind them, chart paper. They do read-alouds from children's literature, and I'm just scratching the surface. Guided navigation. Teachers are engaging with the kids much more often to walk them through the educational platform. And most of this really does apply to our younger learners. Our older students, it's easier for them to navigate. They are more adept, more experienced with the technology. Parent Zoom meeting was held on October 1st with our trainer from Edmentum for our K-5 teachers and parents. That was a question and answer support type meeting. We had about 23 people participate in that. It was in the evening. It was live. It was about the platform and how, to support parents. She answered questions that they posed. And they gave feedback to the company, which was very constructive. We also met with her today, and she did take that feedback back to her content specialists and technology teams, and she meets with us very often. We have a regular meeting with the teachers every 2 weeks with her. So the videos I mentioned that teachers are creating to help guide them through the curriculum online. This is just some feedback we got from a parent. A teacher sent this to me. I was copied on that email. Parents have been very grateful, and I appreciate their patience and recognition of all the great work that teachers are doing. So, more responses to the feedback. The volume of work. We got together quite often to look at due dates and look at the expectations, and we reduced assignments where needed. The pacing of the due dates. We did make a change in the system because we started 3 weeks late, and our semester, traditional semester face-to-face, ends right before winter break. It crammed all that first semester curriculum into that semester that was 3 weeks short compared to a traditional semester. So we made a change in that system to a January 7th end date so that we could pace out the content in a different way. The target completion dates were also adjusted. Students will see a target date for assignments. Sometimes that was very stressful. We've removed them where appropriate. The teachers have decided to make some changes with those based on their experience with their kids and with their content. I mentioned the frequent meetings we have with trainers. We have 2 different trainers, one for the K-5 curriculum and one for grades 6 through 12. And they've been very accommodating and available for us. Like I said, we have regular meetings with K-5 that's scheduled already. Those are live online meetings through Zoom. And then our grade 6 through 12 trainer meets with us very often. He creates videos in response to emails we send him, teaching us how to do certain things in the system. Very quick turnaround on that support. We also added additional content area support at Bellbrook High School. We did get feedback that we did not have enough availability of teachers for some of our electives. And thank you to high school administration and Mr. Han for discussing that with the teachers that we needed. And he made sure that he could accommodate that support in their schedules, and we appreciate their help with that. We've also been printing lots and lots of worksheets at the office, at central office, and those have been distributed this week. The requests really came in for math worksheets. That is a much more traditional way to work out your math problems in writing. And I had contacted the company, and we cannot get those for quite some time because of the demand across the country. So we were provided PDFs of those math worksheets, so our copier has been quite busy. Some more feedback based on some of the changes that we've made. This was from a parent to a teacher in response to her live meets. So I'll walk you through the schedule for students. It's a different world, as I mentioned. So just a couple of screenshots here. We have a teacher there on the left. That's a screenshot of a live meet. She's interacting with students. We have just this great cartoon over here, Mrs. Barker's virtual classroom. We learned from one of our colleagues, Tess Rivero at the high school, how to create a virtual classroom using a icon, or a Bitmoji as they're known, of yourself, and they're interactive. So students can click in and interact with the teacher. And then we have a teacher who is working in her building, and she has her poster up there, live class in session for her Bellbrook Online Academy students. More support for our teachers, so I wanted to acknowledge that, especially for all those teachers that are working endless hours. Just another photo of what this looks like for students. Actually, this view is for teachers. These are students in a live meet with a teacher. This also came from a parent to a teacher.
Mhm.
So let's walk through the schedule for, I'll give you 4 examples, one for each grade band corresponding to our building configuration. So this is a typical K through 2 kind of schedule. They're not all going to look alike. It depends on the age of the student and their abilities to work independently. But this gives you some sense of what the day looks like. So her schedule, 8:20 to 4. On Monday, starting the day off facilitating, emailing, returning phone calls, I'm sure, and grading. Then from 9 to 9:45, she's recording lessons. Then there's a live meet, a Google Meet. The topic of that 9:45 session is math. So that's a live teaching session. And then there's planning time, a live morning meeting. This is more of a grade level meeting, checking in on students, creating community. These kids haven't been together for quite some time. These are really important things. Lunch and planning, updating Google Classroom, recording lessons again at the end of the day, followed by a live science lesson, and then more administrative details at the end of the day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday look real similar. Then Friday, change it up a little bit. There are some student meetings in the afternoon on Friday for this particular teacher. They are meeting in small groups, providing intervention, and that kind of thing.
If you don't mind my interruption with this, this is K to 2, especially for that age group. It seems so nice that they've been really careful to make the time slots be the same. Even if the subject might change from day to day, the time slots are all the same. And I always have live math or language arts at 9:45 and
Right.
those kinds of things. That's really helpful, I think, for especially our youngest learners.
Absolutely. I think that really helps with families to plan.
Sure.
The live meets are all recorded. So if a student cannot be there, they are recorded and they are posted in the Google Classroom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is convenient for the kids that can't attend, or if parents have a conflict, doctor's appointment, anything,
Sure.
or it's just not a good day to check in live. You can watch that later. You can also re-watch those. So that makes it really nice for reteaching, relearning, intervention needs, or when they're doing assignments, they can always go back to the lesson. This refers to a read aloud that one of our teachers did. So there's a lot of things happening outside of the curriculum that are important to kids. So we'll move on to grades 3 through 5. This is a 5th grade example. So it's a little more complicated because we have kids broken down into 4 different groups. We have 51 5th graders online, so having them all together is not productive in terms of having everyone's attention at the exact same time. Smaller groups are better, online and in person. So this gives you an example of what a day looks like. So again, starting out the day with planning, collaboration across the grade level. Then there's a live, like you mentioned, Mr. Carpenter, from 8:30 to 9. There's always something live happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then planning for small groups. We also have our guidance counselor, Kelly Anderson, providing Google Meet guidance sessions with students. And then more live lessons. And then working independently and more live lessons in the afternoon, depending on which color group you're a part of. On Friday, this particular teaching team, they do a hands-on science STEM lesson in the morning on Friday, so they're providing that enrichment, and then a read aloud in the afternoon. And these are actual schedules from the teachers. I was able to pull from our shared folders online. Students also have PE and art, and they work on those assignments on Friday.
How does PE get managed? That seems, it's a little perplexing.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of it is providing the kids with ideas for physical activity, or reading about the importance of physical activity and health, and they keep fitness logs and those kinds of things.
Good. Good.
A little bit more feedback. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I know from my own experience of working from home a fair amount, you just end up doing a lot of sitting and not nearly as much activity if you're not, disciplined about it.
Absolutely. And many of our teachers will explicitly talk about that with students. They'll say, take a brain break. Why don't you go do this or that or the other for 15 minutes here and there? And they are really trying to support that in their planning and scheduling, so the child is not sitting 6.5 hours a day.
Right.
This is a quote I really like from a middle school student. It is challenging, but I appreciate what she said about, I can work on one class as long as I want, so they have the ability to kind of change gears when they're working independently. I also wanted to share this and thank Mrs. Hummel from the Dairy Shed. She did a guest appearance with 5th graders recently. The teachers arranged for her to be a guest speaker in a Google Meet because the students were learning about math applications in the real world of a scenario where they were planning to open their own yogurt shop. That was a project for the math unit. So Mrs. Bobick invited Mrs. Hummel to a meet to talk about that.
That's great. Real life experience with it.
Yes, and there's a lot of things like this going on that we could be here all night.
Sure.
Live science demos and really interesting things. So moving to the middle school, this is a little more complex, and so I've got a couple of screens here, but typical Bellbrook Online Academy students will participate in live meets. There are office hours available. We have a game block of time, math games in particular, and read alouds. And then, of course, independent work. And here's the master schedule, so to speak, for the teachers at the middle school. These are office hours when kids can meet with the teachers individually, or parents can have live meets, like a conference. And you'll notice the time periods here. We've got some evening office hours, and I just really appreciate that. This was not something that was required, but the teachers found that to be something that they thought families and kids would appreciate, and I certainly appreciate that. So here's a look at a 7th grader's day. So you see, have more self-paced, independent work as the student gets older. But there are live meets as well, lessons, and some of that fun built in. Math hour, and the math game rather, and the ELA read aloud. This was received by me from a parent. And I concur. They've been very creative with solutions to the hiccups in the software. So moving on to Bellbrook High School.
We kind of got,
I'm sorry?
oh, this is Mary.
Hi.
Right at the beginning, we got, several of us got calls about the fact that this online learning was not like it was in the spring. And have we kind of gotten over that this is more structured and there are more requirements, and it would not,
Sure.
have we kind of gotten that settled down, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very different from the spring, since we had virtually no time to plan for it. We also did not have digital resources except in certain areas. We certainly at K-5 did not have much in the way of robust curriculum that covers the standards. We had supplements for math facts, for example. We have some things like that, but we did not have an online presence with our curriculum K-5. We had more at the middle school level and certainly more at the high school, but due to the nature of brick and mortar education, we weren't using that full time because we're providing direct instruction and the kinds of things you would see in a typical classroom, and not just having kids online every day.
Right.
So they did an amazing job in the spring with the tools they had and learned a lot. But we certainly wanted to provide more digital curriculum so that they weren't trying to create everything from scratch. So at the high school, I mentioned at the beginning when I talked about the staffing for BOA, these are the support folks. I don't have their names there, but I have their departments and their office hours. So these are the times when they are tutoring Bellbrook Online Academy students. So we have lots of areas represented, multiple teachers for math, multiple teachers for English language arts, 2 available for art, social studies, etc.
Nice.
So at Bellbrook High School, for the BOA students, we do have the 2 full-time facilitators. So one is in charge of all grades 10 and 12, the other grades 9 and 11. So here's what their day looks like. And I know I've missed some things because I talk to them often, but going by memory and certainly our conversations, they start the day off with checking reports in Edmenum to see the list of students who are off pace or off track. So when they get that list, they can dig a little deeper and see what areas the kids need support with. If it's content area support, they facilitate connecting them to a tutor. They're checking test scores. They're checking their pacing. And it's a lot of students, as you saw from the first slide with enrollment. They get alerts. They get a report each morning that tells them which students are ready to take a mastery test. And they check into that and unlock it if it's a retake and keep track of that. They're always looking at the pacing and making adjustments as best they can when they notice something, even for individual students. I mentioned that they unlock retesting opportunities. They connect students and parents to counselors. They're even talking to, I know Mrs. Berkey is talking to seniors about the timelines this year for all the senior events and applications to college and those kinds of things, making sure they're engaged in the typical high school life. They're facilitating live meets that are optional for kids, but if they want to connect to each other in a social way online, there's some of that happening. And I mentioned already, they connect them to tutors. If students aren't proactively seeking that, they will offer to facilitate that communication. They're calling students, especially when they're off track. What can we do to support you? How can we get you back on pace? And calling parents and seeing what we can do to support them. And they're monitoring grades. Some more feedback from a student who likes the nature of self-pace. So that's my presentation for tonight. I wanted you to get a glimpse at what life is like for Bellbrook Online Academy personnel and students and families. I, again, just want to thank our families for being patient with us, and please know that we're listening and every day trying to come up with solutions that make the experience better, and we've learned a lot in the last 6 weeks for sure. I'll take questions, or Dr. Kozad would like to talk, I know, about the second semester plans. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Kozad.
Doug, can we have a couple of moments of discussion here?
Yeah, I would like that too.
Okay, Betsy, again, I want to commend you for putting together this. You know, I discussed this with you that I thought it'd be a good idea to make a presentation tonight so that the district could know, you know, what has been happening.
Right.
And the thing that is telling to me is, you know, as I sit here as David well underscored, a underpaid, part-time, got a lot of board member kind of person. You know, I was able to, you know, I still check my email regularly. I just don't do it just when I'm on board time here or just before. And as I look back, I probably received, I'm thinking 10 emails from concerned parents. And, you know, there's an old adage that, you know, the squeaky wheel, you know, gets the oil, you know. So the people that were complaining, and I'm not saying those were not justified complaints, but that's the thing that really gets your attention. You know, it gets my attention. It's like, whoa, you know, I've got 10 emails about the online program. They're all negative. So it's like, oh, what's up with that? You know? So, and I attended the tailgate party, or not party, that's not right. There are tailgates. But the tailgate, the whatever we're calling it for the discussion.
Tailgate talk.
There we go, tailgate talk, not the party. It's definitely not a party. So there was some concerned parents that came there and expressed their, you know, their thoughts on it. And so honestly, to be very frank, I had concerns. I'm like, I've got, you know, 10 parents complaining. I've got 2 parents in person there complaining. So what's up? And so that's why I came in and spoke with you to get some more insight into the nature of the program. And that's where I get enlightened, you know, that it's, okay, keep in mind that we've got over 600 students involved in this program. And we've had 10 very well thought out complaints by parents. Now, let me make it really clear here, if these folks are listening tonight. First of all, what you really need to hear from us is thank you. The fact that you had concerns and you could express those, convey those to us, provide productive inputs on how to make it better, that is gold. Thank you for doing that. So please don't take anything here as being critical of your communication with us in a negative way about your experience, because I don't question that was indeed your experience. So it was critically important for us. And as you've heard from Mrs. Chad, as you hear from Dr. Kozad later, that was taken to heart. and there have been, just basically polar shifts in how they were approaching this. And then, of course, you brought in a lot of, feedback with respect to, or not feedback, but you informed us about what's happened with curriculum changes and things like that. So let me just give you, I can't go into obviously in great detail, but just I think most of you know, the community knows, I work at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and we have largely been remote since March. Just recently, public knowledge, half the people went back or were able to go back here within the last couple weeks, but that's how many we can go back with. But just in very broad terms, when we first shifted to a online way of doing business with the Department of Defense, with its $700 billion budget, it didn't go well. We were struggling like none other to just be able, how do we communicate? How do we do a Zoom call? How can we do it in our case so that it's reasonably secure, so our adversaries are not exploiting it or whatever? We didn't have enough VPN connections, so we couldn't even get connected. So we're talking about an entity that's responsible for the defense of our nation, basically, really struggling to even just connect in any limited way. And so it took us, and now honestly, and it's taken us, it probably took us 3 months to get things where they're going. And right now they are well honed, and we are working amazingly effectively remotely. I had to go in for a simulator the other day. Well, obviously you can't move the simulator to my house, so yeah, I had to go in and do that. But largely I can work from home, and very, very effectively. And so my point being, I think our school system deserves every bit as much leeway and consideration as what the Department of Defense had to go through to get to where we are today as far as being effective. So I think the fact that you got off to a rough start, we all got off to a rough start with the school system.
Yeah.
Totally understandable. And so I was really encouraged that, your perspective, you communicate regularly with parents, with teachers, is that it's a 90% effective, positive experience. Indeed, there are probably some people that are still struggling with it, either because of the learning nature of their children, connectivity at their house, family dynamics, all these different things. But so I'm not diminishing potential negative experiences by people. But what I'm encouraged, what I believe is this is a 90+% positive, experience, and not as though some would cast it as the whole thing is going down in flames and it's a complete failure. No, it's not. And people can, they can kind of broad stroke paint the whole experience, but it's not reality. And so, again, you touch base with these parents daily, with the students. I was really encouraged. I think when it first started, it was a lot less daily Zoom calls and things like that. I remember one parent at the tail part, not party, but the meeting, that said, hey, they got this stack of paper on a Monday. They're not going to see their teacher till 11 o'clock on Friday in a Zoom call. And I went, whoa, okay, that's not very good. That's changed. So now students have, as I understand it, every day multiple opportunities for video communication with their teachers. And so the bottom line is the administration and the staff and faculty have taken it to heart. They've listened to the community, to the parents, and they've done the best they can with what they have. And my gosh, people, this is, as Dr. Cozad said earlier, this is, pandemics hit on average about every 100 years. So this is unprecedented times. And we need to allow the fact that we have got to have time to adjust. And I think you all have done an amazing job at doing this. The more I've learned. And again, it's a matter of being informed, not to formulate opinion, then go back and get information to back that up, but actually go into it with an open mind, what's really going on, and then be open-minded to the reality of what's happening. One thing I would like to say as well to the families that chose to have their children stay home, also thank you, because that 20% that's not in the school has reduced the elbow to elbow density at our school. And of course, I think that was one of the factors that we had to make as a board, to make a decision a few weeks ago, whether we were going to go back to school in person or not. And one of the things that enabled us, enabled me to have more confidence in doing that is realizing our schools were at least about 20% less populated than normal. So it's serving an overarching beneficial purpose for our district by having this at home learning. And again, what I'm gathering is it's a very positive experience. And again, I'm not diminishing that some people are maybe struggling with it and still dissatisfied with it, but that's not the norm. That's not the predominant. That's not the majority. So anyway, that's basically my impression, what I believe. And if I look like I'm not looking at you, because I'm looking at you on my screen, and so I can't lob behind this thing and look at my camera and your face while I'm talking to you, Betsy, here. But those are my impressions. And I thank you. I think you're to be commended overall. The parents that are listening and that are dissatisfied, then bottom line, communicate predominantly with Dr. Kozad, with Mrs. Chad, because as David said, our board members to really have an influence and impact on this is quite limited. We can listen. We can try to help shape the strategic thinking of the district, but we cannot really get down into the gory details of how this is going to be actually affected. So please communicate if you're dissatisfied. And oh, by the way, if you're happy, please communicate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jen, I heard from
very motivating. Thank you.
Weren't happy, and be nice to hear from the the 590 that are happy. So please let us know how that's going. And with that, I'll shut up because I've talked longer than I should have. But if there's questions for me, of course I will reply. But for now, I think I'll just go on mute.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Virginia. I'll be next.
First of all, I am so glad we have a Betsy Chad. Every school system should have a Betsy Chad.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the work you have done, and I would suggest you get some rest. However, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but everything is not rosy. Still getting phone calls, and I agree with most of what Kevin said. If I was dealing with the Air Force, it would be no problem. Those are adults. But parents get very panicked when it's their little ones. Some things I'm very happy about is that you all obviously listened with a very humble spirit, and that's great. And I'm very thankful for the positive comments that you've shared. I really like those. I tend to get the others, but still getting complaints. And I think things may have died down a little bit simply because some parents are giving up, just want to make it through the program and have it behind them. And that is not a good situation. Other things I'm happy about are the teachers that you mentioned. Where do you get a Rachel Barker at Tess Rivera? Only here. They are fantastic, very thankful for the things they've done. Tess Rivera has lots and lots of experience with recording. Anyway, those are the things. I was glad to see office hours. I think there's still a lot of hang-ups with the high school from the information I've been getting, and that's about it. So I think Edmonton could learn something from us. Keep teaching them.
That could very well be too.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I would concur. Parent communication is still coming in, and we are doing our very best to answer, pick up the phone, email back. The volume has been really overwhelming, and so I just want to apologize to parents if I'm not as fast getting back to you. I'm working with teachers, as you know, every single day, and I just appreciate everyone's patience with us.
And I don't think that most of this is the problem of Bellbrook or you.
It's
a
everywhere.
lot of it is Edmonton, and it all got to slap together too fast.
Yeah, I would.
Well,
I'm in weekly curriculum meetings online when I can fit that half hour in. We do it during lunch, actually. It's called Curriculum Cafe, and we all share our experiences. And you can imagine the last several weeks have been all about whatever online academy model the district has chosen. And, I can name off competitors of Admenem, but everyone's story is the same.
Right.
We've got lots of parents who would rather take back their decision. Understandably, you don't know what things are like until you're in it. There's no way for us to predict all the hurdles that we would have, or else we would have eliminated them. So it's interesting, not comforting, because we don't wish ill on any of our neighboring districts,
Yeah.
but it is a national. You can listen to radio and
Oh,
TV
I
and hear people talk about remote learning. So
But parents need to keep either complaining or praising. That's how we learn. And we can't get it taken care of. I don't like this. I'm just going to get through it. I'm not going to say anymore. That's not helping. They need to talk, even if it isn't to you or Dr. Cozad or someone. We need to get it taken care of.
yeah.
I think that's what's really we've shifted from, Admenem of rather than just totally relying on Admenem from, page 1 to page 25 or 100, lack of a better way to explain it there. We've allowed our teachers to be able to go in there, use their experience, their expertise to pick and choose kind of what you want to do and what you want to assign, and to use it as a resource, as a reservoir at Admenem, rather than the entire, kit and caboodle of we're going from slide 1 to slide 100. So I think that's been a major part of the shift that we have done, and based on a lot of feedback from parents. And so I think that's what really has shifted, that the expertise of our teachers and of Betsy to be able to see that through those emails and suggestions, and the emails we got from parents were very explicit, and that's a good thing, because it's one thing just saying it's not going well. It's another thing of it's not going well because this, and this, and they give you specifics. You can really dig in and see,
Right.
what is really going well, not going well. So, we appreciate that, even though some of those things are challenging to hear and so forth. Without that feedback, we want the best experience for everybody. The online world is a different world than sitting in a brick and mortar school. It's very different. So, it takes a different kind of mindset to be able to be successful in that. So we're trying to shift that also. But
I am
just
encouraged that y'all are trying to make it your own.
Right.
Just Edmonton. That is the only way this is going to work.
Yeah. I was,
big shift has been going on, definitely.
yeah, I was kind of amazed. Well, not surprised, but when you look at the numbers that Admentem went from 12,000 students in their enrollment to 200,000, which is what, 16 times as many students.
Yeah,
in 1 month. It's things like that don't always scale that well or that quickly. But I just want to commend you because I know that you have been that ear to make sure that things get changed, and I know that's still going on. But the huge amount of effort that you and the other administrators have put in, and then the teachers, whether they're online or whether they're in the classroom, they all have an increased workload because the online is new. They're kind of looking at reshaping the curriculum so that it's appropriate for our students, and then the in-person teachers are dealing with the masks and the social distancing and the so many kids in the restroom at a time, and I mean it's
some of our one thing I failed to mention, I want to make sure and mention this. We have teachers that are teaching multiple grade levels. I did mention that for middle school teachers, but
yes,
We have teachers in the K-5 band that are teaching all 4 subjects to 2 grade levels. So on top of all the things we've talked about, it's extraordinary. We're only we're a month in. It just hit me a few minutes ago.
Right. It was a month ago today that we started the online, or a month, and this a month ago today that we did the first day with everybody back. That's right.
Yeah, we call that COVID time. It's kind of like dog years. 1 month COVID time is like regular time. So, and that relates to second semester of kind of our thought process and plans. Again, we're, as with this whole thing, we're open to multiple ideas and suggestions. But during November, we are planning on surveying our BOA parents to see if they want to continue on BOA or if they want to come back second semester in person, and so that we can, just like we did at the beginning of the year, try to work out staffing, and not only in-person staffing but also online staffing, and see where those things are. Again, the challenges are very similar to where, according to staffing and resources, as they were in the summer. Is we unfortunately, we had a lot of students that were online, but they worked out like Betsy had shown at the beginning there, from band, K-2, all those grade bands. It worked out fairly consistently that we could pull teachers from classrooms and either have a grade level or class level worth of kids. The challenge is if those numbers increase a lot or they decrease a lot. The challenge then is of a teacher, especially at those lower grades where they're doing multiple subjects. It'd be extremely challenging for one teacher to teach multiple grade levels, all the subjects. So again, that's where it's beneficial to have a resource like Edmentum, since we don't have a lot of digital or digitized resources, to at least have a reservoir to be able to pull from. But we are going to get feedback from our parents, see if they want to return in person or not. And again, that would allow us time to plan for second semester. And also, if there's students that are in person right now that want to switch to BOA, we're going to allow that too, to switch to BOA at the semester. Again, this, online isn't for everybody, but as some of those quotes there say, it is for some people. They really like the independence and to be able to get to go at their own pace. And if that works for them and they're successful, we're willing to do that. So those are just kind of the thoughts for second semester, that we are going to be getting all those thoughts together in November, because then we're able to put that together with levy results and then be able to see our plans for second semester and put all that planning together. That way we'd have the rest of November and December be ready to go in January.
That sounds
So,
good.
Betsy, or any other questions, thoughts, or Betsy, do you have anything else, or board members, do you have anything else for this particular topic?
I don't
think so.
You summarized the plan for second semester work that we're going to be doing soon.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, Betsy, thank you so very, very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming. Appreciate you chatting with us, and appreciate your hard work and for you and all the teachers who have been involved in it.
Thank you so much as well.
Thanks. Just like anything, it's a team effort. Betsy leading the way on that with the teachers and also the students and the parents all working together, as a team. So just another example of teamwork, everybody working together. Thanks, Betsy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Moving on. Before we move on, it's a little bit after 8:30. We've been an hour and a half. Let's take a 3-minute little bit of a stretch break, and we'll come back in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to mute my phone and camera. right, we're all back. Dr. Kozad, would you like to continue on with the next, the use of district facilities for the winter season?
Yeah. Again, I just want to kind of overview this. We have really during the fall season, just because of everything that's going on, the uncertainty of what's going on, and as we've gathered more information and so forth, obviously winter sports season is right around the corner. And, at the state level for middle school and high school sports, from everything that we have heard, everything is a go at this point. So, if everything is a go for middle school and high school, we believe those same sports, if they want to use our facilities, we're going to allow that also. But we're really focusing on our own communities, groups, our own community groups such as We Eagles, Lions Club, Scouts, Comp Cheer, our Winter Guard program. So at this point, we're still not allowing outside of the community groups to use our facilities inside, but we are opening to all of our own community groups that have a vast majority of our own students in there. So Mrs. Sigmund's been working with all those groups and all the schools and working those schedules out. And so to help with that, during the week, we have custodians in the building, so they can do any type of extra cleaning or so forth that needs to happen. But on the weekend, we don't have custodians in the building, so we are doing a little extra charging for those groups that are using our facilities just on the weekends, and most of those are games and so forth, to bring in somebody to do some extra cleaning before then students arrive on Monday. So they've been more than happy to do that. It's a small cost, but to those groups, so we do appreciate that, and I know they appreciate, us working with them on getting them to use our facilities. That's just a huge part. As my own kids, it's a huge part of growing up and being active, especially in the winter. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. Any questions for use of district facilities for winter?
No, that to me, it sounds like a great option. I'm happy for people to be able to come back in and use the facilities, especially our students.
Yep.
The extracurriculars or outside activities are so important.
Yep. So, okay. The next thing here is COVID-19 update and dashboard. So again, just like with the BOA, it's a team effort between everybody. And like a lot of other schools, but probably most for us, and I'll knock on wood, we've been extremely pleased and happy with the lack of cases within our school district. And again, that could change any second. We all know that it's out there. But really at this point, it just speaks volumes to the, again, partnership and the seriousness that the parents who are self-assessing or helping their students make those good decisions of, if they're not feeling well, staying home and taking those things seriously. And so again, a partnership between everybody. Again, there's going to be more cases in our school district just because there's going to be more cases in our community. But we're doing our best to limit those pieces. But there really at this point has not been, spread within the buildings. It's all been, they saw an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a relative. They saw somebody, a student, and that's how they contracted. Somebody came home from college. So that's been kind of the spread of the virus, the positives. It hasn't been within our school district. So just a couple things. And again, if there is a case, I do email out those. But there are some other new pieces to that. So I'm going to present here. I'm going to try to present. I'm going to do the entire screen. So can you see the website here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our school district COVID-19 dashboard. Again, this is new. So this is the update for this past week. So we're mirroring what the state is doing. So as you probably remember or realize, a few weeks ago, the governor put in place that schools are reporting positive cases and so forth to the health district of your county, and then the county reports that information to the state. So It is from Monday to Sunday is how they do that. So from Monday the 28th through Sunday the October 4th, we had no positive cases of student or staff members, and we had no quarantines. Overall, though, since we've been tracking, since the state has been tracking, we've had 2 staff members and 2 students are positive, but 0 quarantines due to that. Before the state was tracking, we were doing our own at the district level. So in addition to those 2 staff members and 2 students, we had 3 additional positive cases and 7 quarantining. That was before the state was tracking. So, but this is on our website. This is under, if you see Fall 2020 COVID-19 dashboard. So this will be updated every week with that information. Again, we want to be transparent with what's going on in our schools. But an additional piece of that is if you click here, there's a state website that then does the confirmed student and staff and also shows a cumulative rate. So I'm going to click on the other slide here. Can you see that with the State of Ohio school reporting?
Yes.
So what I did is right here, I typed in beforehand Bellbrook-Sugarcreek, and then it brought up, so no new student cases, and that's from the 28th through the 4th, and it's going to refresh on me right there. And so I will show you how to do that. So you type in Bellbrook, and so click on that, and then it shows no new cases this past week. And there's been 2 cumulative student cases and 2 cumulative staff since they've been tracking that. Okay, so I just wanted to, and show folks that will be updated on a weekly basis, as well as if there is a positive case, we're going to send out an email and let people know, as a district level, but also obviously if your student is involved. The nurses are doing a fantastic job of keeping track of all of that. They're doing a fantastic job of keeping track of all that, working with the health district. Just an extra layer of work for them, but they're just doing a fantastic job of that. Along with that, probably, and we do have a couple subs that are recommended here. The sub is probably the real concern, the lack of subs throughout the school district, especially as we get into flu season here and regular sickness season, that the lack of subs is a real concern for us. So if you're out there and you're eligible to sub, we'd love to have you on the sub list and love to have you in our buildings. That goes for teachers, for needs aides, bus drivers, secretaries, anybody. If you can sub, we would really love to have you, because again, that's probably my biggest concern. If there's going to be a school closure in the future at any point in time, it's probably because of lack of subs, and we just can't cover classes. So teachers have been doing a fantastic job of keeping themselves healthy, but at the same time, if they're not feeling well, taking that seriously also.
Right.
So any questions or thoughts about that?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah. All right.
All right, going on to new business. Dr. Kozad, back to you. For open communication, again, I said earlier we didn't have anyone sign up to speak. So move on to new business.
Okay. So certificated license of staff and employment, resignation, leave of absence, supplemental duty. So recommend approval of unpaid child leave of absence for elementary teacher Jennifer Nickel for the period of February 17th through April 5th, 2021.
And do we have a motion? Mrs. France,
Second.
Mrs. Laughlin. And again, this is for after her child is born and using her sick leave first, she'll go to an unpaid leave of absence. Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes,
Mrs. France.
Yes.
motion passes.
Recommend approval of the following substitute teachers for 2021 school year: Jonathan Gilman and Amanda Rollins.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Mrs. France, and I'll second. Any comments? We talked about them earlier. Great candidates. Glad to have them. All right, Mr. Lyman, call the roll.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Recommend approval of the following substitute school nurse for the 2021 school year: Ramona Donovan.
So moved.
Mrs.
Second.
Sloughman, Mrs. France. Any other comments to add to what we talked about before? All right, Mr. Lemming, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Recommend approval of the following athletic department volunteers for 2021 school year: Zachary Chu, Emily Cousins, Nathan Meyer, and Donald Tharp.
So moved.
Mrs. France,
Second.
Mrs. Sloughman. And again, these are all folks who have volunteered for us in the past. All right, Mr. Lemming, please call the roll.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes. Motion passes.
B, support staff employment resignation leave of absence. Recommend approval of 1-year employment contract for 2021 school year for Deborah Bailey, a special needs assistant. Classification number 6, step 20, 6.5 hours per day, 189 days, effective 10/5/2020.
I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Sloughman, okay. Any other discussion from? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
and Mrs. France.
Yes.
Motion passes.
C, revision to school fees 2021 school year. Recommend approval to amend the 2021 student fee schedule.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Sloughman, I will,
Second.
Mrs.
Second.
France. And again, this is eliminating the instrument rental. No other changes in the fee schedule. Mr. Lyming, please call the roll.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
D, correct career technology due to district-wide cutbacks and per Ohio Revised Code, section 3313.90. It's a tenet of the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Local District to not provide career technical education to students in grade 7. Therefore, the Board of Education waives the Ohio Department of Education requirement for the 2021 school year.
I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. France? Any other discussion? This is related to the levy failure in the spring. And it impacts 7th grade only.
Is this one of the things we would be coming back if the levy passes in November? Or have we assessed that?
This would be something we would have to reassess for the next school year, depending on staffing.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Good question, Mr. Price. All right, Mr. Lemming, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes.
E, 2021 bus routing per section 3301-83-13 of the Pupil Transportation Operation and Safety Rules. The board designates all bus stop routes and time schedules for the 2021 school year, superintendent and/or transportation coordinator have the authority to relocate and/or make changes that deem necessary for the safety of the district students and school bus fleet.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mrs. Franz? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Price? Are there any other questions? This is the 20 bus routes with about incredible detail into each one, that's for sure. All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
and Mr. Carpenter.
Yes, motion passes.
F, payment in lieu of transportation. Recommend approval for payment in lieu of transportation services for students attending area non-public private schools for 2021 school year due to impracticality of providing school district transportation per Ohio Revised Code Section 3327.02B.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Sloughman? The second? I'll second it.
Second.
All right. Any other comments or questions? There's 90 students on the list. There's 16 different private schools. All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes,
and Mrs. France.
Yes.
motion passes.
G, donations. Recommend acceptance of the following donations with gratitude. The Hallman family, $100 cash donation to the Stephen Bell Playground Renovation Fund, and the Riggs family BHS or Athletic Department fundraiser of custom-made Bellbrook blankets.
Oh, very nice. I'll move to accept those. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Sloughman? That's really very generous of the custom-made Bellbrook blankets, the Riggs family and the Heilman family for donating to the playground. Those are great things to contribute to, and we appreciate that so very much.
Definitely.
Any other comments? If I would encourage other board members, if you haven't seen some of the updates at the Stephen Bell Playground, I encourage you to go take a look at it. It's looking pretty good. It's a nice thing for the students there. All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes,
Mrs. France,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes.
motion passes.
And this is on the hand carry. So H, amendment to the 2021 school calendar. Recommend approval to amend the 2021 school-wide district calendar reflect a change in the end of course first quarter for Bellbrook Online Academy BOA students only. So the end of the first quarter will change from October 9th to October 23rd, 2020. Again, for Bellbrook Online Academy students only. In-person students, their first quarter ends tomorrow.
All right, we need a motion. I'll move to approve. Is
So
there a
moved.
second? And Mrs. France, a second.
Second.
Any other questions or comments on the change of the calendar? All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes,
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
and Mrs. Sloughman.
Yes.
right, motion passes. And then I'll do the motion for the special meeting for board professional development, November 17th, middle school. 14th, thank you. 14th is written in front of me. I don't know why I said 17th. November 14th, 9 to 12 at the middle school. So that's motion to approve that special meeting. Is there a second?
moved.
All right, Mrs. Sloughman on a second. Any other question or discussion? All right, Mr. Lemmy, please call the roll.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes. Motion passes.
The H items of information discussion, there's just a bunch of revisions to board policy there. This is a first read tonight. If you have any questions or thoughts, please get with me before the next board meeting. Will be November, will be when we vote on those.
Okay.
And then levy discussion. Again, as everybody knows, we have a 5.7 mil levy on the November 3rd ballot. We have tailgate talk at Bell Creek Elementary at 9 a.m. on October 14th. And then we have a virtual town hall levy meeting, or this is our second one. We have one on September 21st, October 21st. So if there's questions folks have, info@bss.k12.oh.us. Your questions can be sent there. We'll answer them on the air there, but get them to us before 6 p.m. on that night. And then another tailgate talk at 6 p.m. on October 27th. So again, if weather is not well on those 2 days, it was raining last time, we just moved right into the lobby of the Bell Creek Intermediate gym there. So there's enough space in that lobby for us to still socially distance. And again, that's the main reason why we're doing tailgate talks rather than superintendent coffee with the superintendent, so we can socially distance, and hopefully the weather is good and we can be outside and discuss and talk. But if not, we'll move right into the lobby of that BCI there. I also want to mention that the Capital Conference, the OSBA conference, is November 8th through the 10th. It's virtual, and all the board members are already registered for that. And so you can pick and choose virtually how you want to, any sessions that you would like. That's going to be before our next board meeting. So I just wanted to also mention that.
All right.
And I had one thing too. We sent in applications for absentee ballots, and according to the website where you can check your information, our ballots were mailed out on October 2nd, and we haven't seen them yet. So I just want to warn everybody, if you're planning to send for an absentee ballot, make sure you give yourself plenty of time, or plan to take it over and deliver it to the Board of Elections yourself, because the mail is running really slow.
Actually, I think that they weren't, they would have approved it to be mailed on the 2nd, but they weren't allowed to actually drop any into the mail until Tuesday. So on the 6th.
Well,
So that, but your advice,
still.
your advice is still good. Yeah.
I mean, we mailed it like the second week in September.
Yeah.
And so it took that long to get it registered that they had even received it. So just make sure you give yourself plenty of time.
Right.
Yeah, so mail and ballots has to be postmarked by November 2nd and then hand delivered by November 3rd. So yeah, I think probably everybody agrees that you are doing that probably, and hand delivering is probably the best.
Yeah, I would agree.
The mail to get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we have on our website, we have, at the top there, levy information. There's a multitude of levy facts information, frequently asked questions. That's all on our website. Tailgate talks, you can ask questions, a virtual levy meeting. Any of you board members would be able to answer questions. Kevin Liming and I are more than happy to sit down with people, ask or answer questions. They just need to email us, give us a phone call. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Board members, any other comments? We are going to forego having our executive session this evening. So we don't have any other items on our agenda. Any comments from board members? Or do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Sloughman and Mrs. Franz. Is there any opposition to that? All right, Mr. Liming, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
and Mrs. France.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you all so very much for good discussion Dr. Kozad, Mr. Liming, thank you so much.
Good luck with your baby.
Hey, thank you.